Every day, people like you and me witness paranormal activity. Many people suffer alone, afraid of telling their stories. Their encounters remain locked away, like skeletons tapping lightly on a closet door. Join me, Blake Lewis, as we peel back the veil of our reality, searching through silence. Good evening, children of the night. All right. I always have to do that.
I know. I love it. It's your signature.
It's a way to say hello to all the nice little creatures out there. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I hope so.
What we talking about today?
Last time that we were on the podcast, and I love that I could officially call this a podcast now instead of webisodes.
Me too.
Because now I actually have a gorgeous co-host. So, last time that we were on the podcast, we were talking about potentially watching The Exorcist because you hadn't seen it. Well, guess what, folks? She is now up to date with The Exorcist. We ended up watching it. That was quite the experience to be sitting next to someone who had not seen that movie yet. I'm going to put that out there right now, only because of the fact that that fucking movie to me is iconic.
It is. After seeing it, I can agree with you. Especially around that time.
Captain Steubing would be very proud to hear that you enjoyed his little possession.
It was Howdy. Captain Howdy.
I said Captain Steubing. Yeah. That's from the fucking Love Boat.
I was like, huh?
Yo.
Captain Howdy, my God.
You know what? I'm leaving that in there.
Yeah. No, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. And let's go into more detail.
Awesome. I am so game. I want to get this out of the way real fast and say that the lesson that everyone should take from this fucking movie is to not fuck with Ouija boards.
True that. Oh my God. Yeah.
And if any entity is calling itself Captain, that means it's going to take control of your vessel, okay?
You're better off without it.
And your body is a fucking vessel. Remember that. That's a subliminal message right there that nobody ever really picks up on.
Yeah.
Captain Howdy is a captain because what do captains do? They control vessels, and your body is a vessel.
Wow. I haven't even thought about it that way.
So,
wow.
Without further ado, let's get into some of the nice little aspects about that fucking great horror movie. Was it exactly what you were expecting? Was it worse, or was it easier to tolerate than you thought?
Well, both. I was expecting a little bit better, honestly. But in a way, yes, now I feel like I can tolerate horror movies now. Like, that was like nothing, you know? It wasn't that scary, in my opinion.
I'm glad that it didn't affect you as much as it affects other people. But
True.
I think primarily why that does affect other people is because people are very afraid of things that are untouchable, unseeable.
Right.
The fear of there being some type of entity out there that can jump into you like you are a host
and just control you
and take over your body. And
it's crazy.
In The Exorcist, she wasn't even capable of seeing what the entity was seeing while it had control over her. She was trapped like in the belly.
Oh my god, when it said help me.
Yeah.
Bro, I looked at you, I was like, oh hell nah.
That threw me.
That was scary.
Initially, when I was younger and I saw that shit, like what? She's writing on the inside of her belly. She is in the belly. Like that shit threw her way down there. Like, this is my body, bitch.
I wonder how it is for them. Like, do they just go dormant and like sleep? Or do they feel pain? Or like, I wonder what they go through when they be possessed.
Well, I
or
mean,
being possessed, like,
obviously they don't feel the pain. Well, I can't say obviously because I never went through it.
You don't know.
But I would anticipate how it's portrayed in most movies, like in The Exorcist and in Evil Dead.
Yeah.
You see that when the demon has the body, the people are elsewhere. And then when the demon leaves, the people are then thrust back into control of their body and then go through all of the pain that their body is feeling currently.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming.
They didn't address that in The Exorcist. Because, like, yo, he was turning her head around. He was going to town on her freaking crotch. And then as soon as she wakes up, when the guy jumps out the window, she's crying in the corner, whatever. And then the next scene you see of her, she's, like, all, like, back to normal with her mom. You know? Like, they never showed how she was actually hurting from it. But I guess it's not important. You know?
The police officer at the end, the detective, ended up speaking to the mother, and the mother even brought up the fact that Reagan, after she went to sleep, couldn't remember a single thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So she lost her entire memory to it, almost as if, like, it was memory.
But wouldn't she feel physical pain still? Because, like, her body went through some crazy trauma there.
Well, yeah, she had to go through all the healing process, but
it is what it is.
Again, I don't think in a real possession, if your head is spinning completely around and snapping in that fashion, that you are living after that.
Exactly.
So it's just all trying to be theatrical.
Yeah.
And make it as frightening.
I mean, it was frightening, though.
I can only imagine back in the 70s, you're watching that shit and you're like,
That's another thing. It's back in the 70s, so that wasn't, like, normal, per se. Like, like you were saying, everyone was in the church and super good. And
yeah. So, when that movie initially dropped, it was a shell shock to the world because nothing had ever pushed the boundaries like that movie did in that time. And, I mean, they had people vomiting in the theater and people actually being scared to death.
Holy shit.
Literally dying watching that movie. Like, crazy.
I really don't, in my opinion, it wasn't like that for me.
Nowadays, we have been thrusted into a culture where we see things super fast with our internet now. We're seeing people get shot with guns, run over by cars, stuff that the public was being hid from back in the day.
True that.
So back in the day, that was like so absolutely out of the blue.
Right.
That it scared and frightened the hell out of everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
we
know this from how our culture is. Back in the day, the first, like, actual black and white videos that were being shown They
Was that-
put people into, like, seizures, just in general.
Was that in black and white?
That?
Originally?
No,
No,
it was
okay.
color.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, in the 70s they had
Yeah,
color.
they had color
It was
in the
just
70s.
dull grain. At least now
Yeah.
we get to watch a movie like that and see it in HD. And
That's true.
Be able to take it for what the fucking original vision was supposed to look like for the director.
Instead of that, like, VHS quality, grainy quality.
I'm not gonna
Although,
lie.
what?
I miss the grainy quality of some of those movies.
That probably-
Movies like that should be grainy quality because it adds to the fright
I was just
factor.
gonna say that. It gives it, it gives it more of a scary feel.
Yeah, I feel like
more
everything
authentic.
that comes out now is all HD to the point where I feel like I'm watching a soap opera and I want to punch every fucking director in the face that makes all these horror movies so crystal clear. They're not dark enough. 4K and 8K and whatever K comes after fucking K.
I do want to say, though, I like how it was filmed. Like, they used a lot of, like, backward panning and, like, forward, like, while they're talking and showing in between scenes. Like, there weren't a lot of cuts, it felt like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it made it feel a little slow-moving, at least in the beginning, for me.
I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I loved all of how the movie was filmed.
Yeah, me too.
I even made mention of that too. Like, I
Yeah.
just enjoy when you watch something that doesn't feel like it was all shot in one take. I like, believe it or not, I like how long that movie took to get into any of the parts, only because it makes that suspense that much more riveting.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Because we are thrusted with a shitload of movies nowadays that just jump.
Boom, boom, boom. Like, between character. Every time someone talks, it cuts and cuts and cuts.
Yeah, and
What-
right into all the action fast, because
Yeah.
we no longer can
Take that.
just sitting there and learning a plot or watching things unfold. We don't like suspense anymore as a culture. We like fast-paced action. Even in
Well,
fucking suspense
I wanna
movies,
say
we
that's
like to
true.
see that shit bump.
There's horror movies that have, like, jump scares and that suspense beforehand, and people love that shit. It's different than what we just watched with suspense as in them having a conversation about her downstairs. And, like, waiting for something to happen upstairs. That's a bit different than, like, when there's horror movies. Like, you are expecting a jump scare and, like, the suspense. I guess music plays a part in that as well.
Yeah,
So,
the score of the audio, like
Yeah.
the movie itself.
Yeah.
But when shit happened in Exorcist,
yeah.
when you started hearing shit happening in her room and they're downstairs and the camera pans up to the balcony, you're like, oh shit, I'm about to witness something.
Yeah.
Your first time around, you know what I
Definitely.
mean?
But there was a whole 20 minutes before that is like,
Yeah.
alright, is something gonna happen? It wasn't
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah.
What?
When that bitch came spider walking
I was just thinking that.
down the steps.
They didn't show that in the review either.
Yeah, I know.
That was a director's cut.
Oh yeah,
Right?
that's straight from the director's cut.
Yeah.
And she's throwing up, she's vomiting blood upside down in a spider position.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That was a scary scene.
That hit hard.
Oh, yeah. I got a question for you.
Hopefully I get a good answer at least.
What was your favorite scene?
Oh my god. I'm sorry. It has to be still when she spider walks down the goddamn steps.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
That
see
shit
that.
is epic.
It's one of a kind. You don't see that in movies too often, that's for sure.
I love it. What would be your favorite part in the entire movie?
I'm gonna... See, I have a favorite part, but it's more like the part that shocked me the most. other than that, I would say the part where the mom walks in and she's like freaking stabbing her crotch and was like, lick me, and turned her whole head around. Like, that was crazy.
Goodness.
But aside from that.
Yeah, no, that is super fucking cringe, too. That's like one of the darkest things I think I've seen in a movie. And imagine seeing that back in the 70s.
Exactly.
Holy shit. And again, that's why I'm sure you probably haven't heard, Belinda Blair was getting, when she was a little kid, when that movie came out, death threats from people because that shit scarred them so badly. People wanted to kill her.
That ain't right.
Right? These actresses and actors sometimes, they're taking on roles that are so dark, I don't even think that they realize
Did they
the
have,
road that
they have
they're
shit
walking
happen
down.
to them in their real life?
Yeah.
Like in Poltergeist?
Well, yeah, in that movie was supposedly a cursed film as well. Shit was
Exorcist?
happening on the actual set. But I think that they're dealing with supernatural forces in the movie and in real life because they're reenacting that shit and the spirits are actually feeding off of people going out and watching these films and becoming afraid of them again and realizing that they're really there. So then that puts more power into just demons in general because now all of a sudden they're on the cusp of everyone's thoughts. They're there standing over your bed when you're sleeping at night.
That is freaky. Oh.
I know you just heard that.
No, what was it?
Well, it just sounded like something just... Look, and this is another thing. I've noticed that whenever we begin to open up and talk about paranormal stuff, shit will happen off on the corners, and you'll start hearing noises of shit shuffling around. It shouldn't be there.
I feel like recently we've been experiencing a lot of activity as well. Like, more than usual.
Yeah. So, any other parts in the movie that actually stuck out the most that would frighten you if it happened to you in real life?
Well, the whole bed shaking was freaky. Like, she walked in and the whole bed's like... She's like, Mom, help! Like,
right, she was riding that shit like a fucking...
like a roller coaster.
Like a girl at a rodeo bar riding a fucking electronic bull.
I'm dead. Definitely. If that happened to me in real life, I would just sell the freaking house. Like, now, I don't even know.
Unfortunately, that has happened to me and my children. Mm-hmm. They were sleeping on my bed with me.
Wait, they were asleep at the time? Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were awake.
And then I was dozing into sleep.
Yeah.
And then randomly our bed started shaking. And then lifted up and slammed one time, and the center bar of the bed gave out and hit the floor. And they were all bawling, crying.
Get the fuck out.
I swear to God, swear on my children, it scarred them for a little while. They were incapable of sleeping anywhere away from me after that happened. But that was at a time where I was just coming back from paranormal investigating, like the Conjuring House and all of...
Do you think they followed you back?
Of course.
Entities? Oh my God, that is so scary.
When you're going into places like that, you're leaving yourself open for attachments, even if you think you're strong or not. They just tend to follow you. But it's all based on whether or not you are strong enough to know that they can't take you over for them to be incapable of doing so. The minute you begin to show fear is when you can get possessed. when things can take control of your environment and have more energy to feed off of,
Right.
because you're placating into their energy just by the fear that you are pumping into the atmosphere around you.
Was that their first experience with the paranormal?
Theirs? No.
Oh,
My
okay.
kids have grown up and seen some of the
I
craziest
know, but
shit.
I didn't know how
Yeah.
in the beginning that was.
They've seen things ever since they were super young, so I know. And I'll even go on to say that I believe that most children see these things from young ages onward.
Yeah.
What everyone has dealt with when they're talking about imaginary friends.
Well, I've never had those types of experiences.
And you never had an imaginary friend, right?
No.
And there you go. But the kids who have had imaginary friends that they swear are real,
okay.
and that they want you to set up a plate for them, and they need food too. Look at, but John's over here. John wants some candy
Did
too,
you have
Mommy.
that?
I had imaginary friends, and I saw them when I was a kid. And
Were they friendly?
Yeah,
They were all
because you're
friendly
a child.
spirits. Right.
And they feed off of your energy. But I know now what I saw when I was a kid.
Whoa. That's deep.
Yeah, but also it all depends on what you're brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's just your imaginary friend, honey. Okay? So your parents are telling you that, and then after a while you stop believing in them and you lose the ability to see them.
Right.
And then your psychic inherent ability from when you were first born is then shut off.
Man. That's a shame.
But there are some of us out there that they are still turned on, and they are like a beacon calling any of those entities directly to us, and they cannot wait to sit there and be able to be heard by you. So they'll be off in the corner, scratching at your fucking walls, banging on your closet doors. And then people think you're crazy. We're not crazy.
Are you sure?
So when it comes to The Exorcist, if you were to give it an actual rating, and be serious about your rating,
Okay.
out of a 10-star
Right.
rating.
Right.
That way we have some way of placating bad movies from good movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if it didn't hit every single benchmark you wanted, you could fire up controversy right fucking now and give it a terrible rating. Or you could be truthful and just...
It's definitely not below 5, but...
Oh, you would rock the world.
I
if
know,
you did
right?
that
If I was
shit.
like 1 out of 10, like what?
You'd be like, you know what? I'm not listening to this.
Right? Click, turns
this
off.
bullshit.
I think seriously, with all aspects of film, production, music, acting, plot, all of that stuff, I'd give it an overall 6.
Okay.
And I think that's fair. But, I mean, I'm also a younger generation. It's an older movie. There's a lot of aspects to it.
Yeah. Now, with The Exorcist, I would probably give it, with everything that I have ever seen movie-wise and judging it with any other horror movies that I would choose well over The Exorcist.
Right.
I give it a solid 8 when it comes to
Wow, okay.
the plot, the build-up, but I do like prolonged build-ups.
And that's where we differ.
Yeah.
True.
The horror aspect and it being an older film, because I tend to give more
That's also
love
where we differ.
to older films than any of the newer ones. Yeah. You do like a lot of the more recent ones. But I have to give it a solid 8.
I mean, you've also seen more, so you can compare it to more. Maybe as we go on and I watch more horror movies, that rating might go up. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, but you have more to compare it to than
But
I
I'll
do.
tell you this much.
What?
I have another one for you.
What?
The next movie that we're going to watch.
Uh-huh.
The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Ooh.
I hope that one frightens you a little bit more. That has a different turn to it. I don't want to dive too far into anything of it because I want you to go into that one blind.
Yeah.
But that'll be for next episode. So now we have homework, madam.
I'm excited.
Good.
Can't wait.
I'm actually tingling because that one's a good one. And that one will actually be a little bit more in your wheelhouse because that one deals with the same premise, but it kind of Quentin Tarantino's that shit.
Okay. Okay.
Because it starts from the aftermath and then moves through.
Ooh, like a backwards plot.
It has a crazy feel to it and an updated film atmosphere. You'll see.
Okay.
All right, so I hope that everyone out there had fun listening to our little banter when it comes to just another horror movie. Because I've been doing this for a little while, actually, the reviews, but I know they were boring as shit when it was just me talking about it by myself. It's great having a co-host.
Yes, I love it.
So I hope everyone out there is having as much fun just listening to this as we are bringing this type of entertainment to you.
Yeah, of course.
But until our next one, stay safe, sleep